Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Today is Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. It's probably going to be a shorter show than usual because no sports are on. We'll recap the home run derby. I'll give out a pick for the All-Star game and All-Star game MVP. A couple weeks ago on the show, I did a segment where I predicted every team's NFL coaches or NFL team's coaches 3 years from now. Today, we are going to do the same thing except Major League Baseball managers. This segment I did about 3 weeks ago with football. So we're going to bring it back for MLB. Tomorrow we'll do NBA, and then Thursday I'll do NHL. News and notes, and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll do the home run derby first. It was a really, really fun derby. It really, in my opinion, brought back the fun and joy that we all loved from a couple years ago that we missed out on with COVID. So it was nice to see this back in our lives again. Up first was Trey Mancini and Matt Olson. As Trey Mancini went first and dinged 24 bombs, and Matt Olson went second and hit 23. Matt Olson came close to tying Trey Mancini, but Trey Mancini advanced. And then next up was Trevor Story and Joey Gallo. Trevor Story went up first. He hit 20 in the first round, and Joey Gallo hit 19. Therefore, Trevor Story moved on. And then it was Peter Alonso and Salvador Perez. Peter Alonso hit the most home runs in the first round with 35. He was just amazing all night. And then Salvador Perez had 28. He hit the second most, or a tie for this, the third most in the first round, but it was just unfortunate of his opponent. And then the best matchup of the first round, Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. As they were tied at 22 apiece. Soto went first, then Ohtani. And then they each hit 6 home runs during the first tiebreaker. Then it was a swing-off where you get 3 swings, and whoever hits the most of the 3 wins. Juan Soto hit 3 out of the park. Shohei Ohtani's up, doesn't hit 1 out of the park. Juan Soto advances. Semifinals. Trey Mancini and Trevor Story. Trey Mancini hit 13. Trevor Story hit 12. So Trey Mancini advanced to the finals. Really cool to see him advance to the final after what he went through. So good for him. And then Peter Alonso over Juan Soto 16-15. That was a good match as well. And then the final was Alonso and Mancini. Mancini hit 22. He went first. And then came up Alonso, and he hit 23 in the final round as he repeats as home run derby champion. In total, Alonso hit 74 home runs last night, which is incredible. Good for Pete Alonso, the polar bear. He does it again, and he'll probably go for a three-peat next year when the All-Star game is in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium. And Fernando Tatis already hinted about doing it next year. I know a lot of people wanted him to do it this year, but he sat out. Maybe he enjoyed it this year, and he wants to get into it next season. All right, now I'm going to talk about the All-Star game a little bit. American League versus National League like it is each and every year. I'm going to go through all the rosters because there's some replacement players in there. So the American League starters: Salvador Perez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Marcus Semien, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, Teoscar Hernandez, Shohei Ohtani. Obviously, Trout is injured. And They did say, it was Cedric Mullins who's replacing him in the starting lineup of the Baltimore Orioles. He's having a great year, so good for Cedric Mullins. So that's who's replacing Trout in the starting lineup. And in the reserves, Mike Zunino of the Rays, Matt Olson of Oakland, Jared Walsh of the Angels, Jose Altuve of the Astros, Whit Merrifield of the Royals, Jose Ramirez of the Indians, Joey Wendell of the Braves, Bo Bichette of the Blue Jays, Tim Anderson of the White Sox, Carlos Correa of the Astros, Michael Brantley of the Astros, Joey Gallo of the Rangers, Adolis Garcia of the Rangers, Cedric Mullins of the Orioles, who we talked about, but now as a starter, Nelson Cruz of the Twins, and JD Martinez of the Red Sox. Those Astros players are not playing in the All-Star game, unfortunately. So, no Altuve, no Correa, no Brantley, no Mike Trout. I think that's interesting. There's no Astros players or position players going. Sketchy, right? All kidding aside about the cheating stuff, but still, I do think it's weird that none of them are going. Maybe they just want to rest. Who knows? Pitchers. Matt Barnes of the Red Sox, Chris Bassett of the Athletics, Shane Bieber of the Indians, Aroldis Chapman of the Yankees, who to me was the most undeserving All-Star, Garrett Cole of the Yankees, Nathan Eovaldi of the Red Sox, Kyle Gibson of the Rangers, that's deserving, Liam Hendricks of the White Sox, Yusei Kikuchi of the Mariners, Andrew Kittredge of the Rays, Lance Lynn of the White Sox, Ohtani, who's the first two-way All-Star in the history of baseball, Ryan Presley of the Angels, Carlos Rodon of the White Sox, Taylor Rogers of the Twins, and Gregory Soto of the Tigers. Pitchers not going, or not performing. Chris Bassett, Shane Bieber, Garrett Cole, Yusei Kikuchi, Ryan Presley. National League. Buster Posey, Freddie Freeman, Adam Frazier, Nolan Arenado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr., Nicholas Castellanos, Jesse Winker were the elected starters. Buster Posey won't start. And obviously Ronald Acuna tore his ACL, so he's out for the next year plus. So hopefully he gets well soon. I don't remember who replaced Buster Posey. Oh, JT Realmuto, that makes sense. So JT Realmuto is starting at catcher. And replacing Acuna in the starting lineup. I want to say it's Mookie Betts. Brian Reynolds of the Pirates is replacing Acuna in the starting lineup. So the reserves. Yadier Molina of the Cardinals, who's not playing. Omar Narvaez of the Brewers. Realmuto we talked about. Max Muncy of the Dodgers. Ozzie Albies of the Braves. Jake Cronenworth of the Padres. Chris Bryant of the Cubs. Eduardo Escobar of the Diamondbacks. Manny Machado of the Padres, he replaced Acuna on the roster. Justin Turner of the Dodgers, Brandon Crawford of the Giants, Trey Turner of the Nationals, Mookie Betts of the Dodgers, who's not playing in the game, Reynolds, Cal Schwarber of the Nats, who's not playing, Juan Soto of the Nats, Chris Taylor of the Dodgers. Pitchers, Walker Buehler, who is a replacement, Corbin Burns of the Brewers, Yu Darvish of the Padres won't pitch, Jacob deGrom of the Mets won't pitch. Kevin Gausman of the Giants won't pitch. Josh Hader, Craig Kimbrell of the Brewers and Cubs, respectively. Herman Marquez of the Rockies. Mark Melancon of the Padres. Freddie Peralta of the Brewers. That's deserving. Alex Reyes of the Cardinals, very deserving. Trevor Rogers of the Marlins, that's very deserving. Max Scherzer of the Nationals, he'll be starting for the National League. Taijuan Walker of the Mets, that's deserving. Zach Wheeler of the Phillies and Brandon Woodruff of the Brewers, who's not pitching. And starting for the American League, and deservedly so, is Shohei Ohtani. I mean, if they pitched, you would have thought it would have been Garrett Cole and Jacob deGrom because they are the consensus guys. But deGrom would have been a lock if he pitched. And I'm not convinced that Garrett Cole would have been a guarantee either, but Shohei Ohtani deserves this start for sure. And in terms of a pick for the game, I think both these rosters are very good. The American League tends to win the All-Star game a lot. Obviously, it was canceled last year because of COVID. It was supposed to be at Dodger Stadium, but that's going to be the following year. I want to say the AL has won every All-Star game over the last couple of seasons. And then the game's going to be on Fox, called by Joe Buck, John Smoltz, Ken Rosenthal, and Tom Rinaldi. And Tom Rinaldi is obviously a new addition to Fox. He was on ESPN. Managing the All-Star game, Kevin Cash and David Roberts, as it should be, because those are the managers of the World Series teams. Obviously played at Coors Field. I think the American League just continues to win. The National League's favored, but they're not going to have Acuna. They're not going to have DeGrom. Although you could say the American League doesn't have Trout, but they have guys like Aaron Judge that tend to perform well on these types of stages. Bogarts and Devers. Vlad Guerrero Jr. you would think would be fired up. Sal Perez has been in big games before. Not that this isn't a big game, but players that play well in big games tend to show up in the All-Star game. Obviously, if you look at past MVPs, Robinson Cano, Eric Hosmer. I'm talking about past All-Star game MVPs. Mariano Rivera in 2013. So there's a lot of big names, obviously, on both sides. I think the better pitchers are in the National League, but the better hitters are in the American League. And obviously, losing Acuna is just a major blow for the National League's roster. Although I think the AL side is deeper even without Trout. I'm going to say that the American League wins the All-Star game, and the MVP will be, of course, Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Angels. So I think this is Ohtani's time. I picked him to win the Home Run Derby last night. Didn't happen. I'm going to follow it up and pick him to win the All-Star game MVP. So there you have it for the All-Star game. All right, now I'm going to predict the future. MLB managers 3 years from now. I did the same segment 3 weeks ago on the NFL, and I predicted who would be every team's head coach 3 years from now, and I'm going to do the same thing right now for Major League Baseball managers. This was a tougher one to put together. So without further ado, here we go. The Arizona Diamondbacks, Bob Guerin, it's the Dodgers bench coach. I think Lovello's fired probably after the season because of how bad the Diamondbacks have been. So let's say Bob Guerin gets this gig. Good rap because he's on Dave Roberts' staff. Atlanta, Eric Young, the first base coach. I was tempted to pick Brian McCann here, but then I realized that he was involved in the Astros cheating scandal. And that's why Carlos Beltran didn't get a managerial job. So that's why I backed off on Brian McCann. Or I should say that's why Carlos Beltran briefly was in his managerial job with the Mets. He never managed a game for the Mets. Although they did hire him, have a press conference with him and everything. So Eric Young, obviously a former player, and knows the game, so why not? Baltimore Orioles, Willie Harris, the Chicago Cubs, their base coach. I just don't think that the Orioles manager is going to last. I think that Brandon Hyde is somebody that is just there for the rebuild. And I could see them going in a different direction eventually. Boston, Alex Cora. I think Alex Cora sticks around. They love him there. The fans love him. Future's bright as long as they keep their core together with Bogarts and Devers And all these newer additions have been really good for them as well. So I'm going to say Alex Cora sticks around. Cincinnati Reds. Skip Shoemaker, Padres associate manager. Shoemaker, former Reds player. I don't think David Bell will last. Shoemaker obviously was on the Reds from 2014 to 2015. He was a Dodger and he was a longtime Cardinal. So it would make sense if he was the manager of the Cardinals too, but why not put him with the Reds? The Cleveland Indians, Sandy Alomar Jr., Indians bench coach. Francona's been there a long time, and they all know the saying, time it's run its course. We've seen that with Joe Girardi and the Yankees. We saw that around baseball too. Orioles, Buck Showalter, Ron Gardenhire Twins. There's some other good examples as well. Terry Francona, Red Sox. So, I think they move on from Francona and Alomar. I think would be a good choice. The Chicago Cubs, Phil Nevin, Yankees third base coach. I think Phil Nevin will get a look as a manager. He's been on Aaron Boone's staff for a while. This is somebody that was an ex-player. He was a Cub. So that would help his cause. Just like it helped David Ross's cause. And I'm going to say within the next couple of years, they get rid of Rossi. As much as those players love him. But to me, he's the Aaron Boone of the National League. In terms of, came right from the broadcast booth. And gets a good reputation from the media. But really doesn't manage great. The Rockies, Will Venable, Boston Red Sox bench coach. I'm going to say that Bud Black eventually is fired, and I could see Venable getting a crack at a job being the bench coach for Alex Cora. The Chicago White Sox, Shelley Duncan. He's the current analytics coordinator for the White Sox. I don't think La Russa's going to last. And Shelley Duncan was an ex-player. He's an analytics coordinator. And baseball's trending in the analytics direction, so why not Shelley Duncan? The Detroit Tigers, Kevin Cash. Let's say that the Rays part ways with Kevin Cash, and it doesn't work out with A.J. Hinch with the Tigers. Maybe the Tigers prematurely think that they're a contender. They get rid of Hinch. And let's say Tampa parts ways with Kevin Cash. I could see Kevin Cash going to the Tigers. The Houston Astros, Joe Espada, Astros bench coach. I don't think Dusty's going to be there for much longer. He's done a great job this year, but my issue is that he's a regular season manager. Joe Espada's a good guy, and I think he deserves an opportunity. The Royals, Tony Pena Jr., Royals infield coach. Tony Pena Sr. was the manager of the Royals once upon a time, and I believe was a manager of the year for KC. So I think this potential hiring down the road would make sense. Los Angeles Angels, Joe Girardi. I think that Joe Madden won't last there. And let's say that Girardi doesn't last in Philly. And I could see a world where the Angels just move on. And this is a dysfunctional team. Joe Madden isn't the Joe Madden of old. He's done a good job this year, though. Gotta hand it to him. But he wore that Cubs team out. And the race didn't mind moving on from him. And Billy Epler was recently fired from the Angels. And I thought he was still with the Angels, so that's why I picked Joe Girardi here. But I could see Artie Moreno going for the big name here, like he did with Madden. Dodgers, Dave Roberts, I think he sticks around. I think the World Series win bought him some time. Miami, Rob Thompson, Phillies bench coach. This makes sense because Jeter has ties with Rob Thompson from when Jeter was on the Yankees and Thompson was the third base coach for Joe Girardi when Joe Girardi was with the Yankees. I thought about Joe Girardi Marlins, but I went with Ron Thompson instead. And plus, Girardi already managed the Marlins. Milwaukee, Craig Counsell, I think he sticks around. Their pitching really has panned out this year, finally. And they have Christian Yelich for the long term, so I think Counsell's still in Milwaukee. Minnesota, Joe Mauer. This is just a pure guess. This is a fun one. Like I talked about earlier, how I thought about picking Brian McCann for Atlanta, but then the Astros cheating scandal might blow up in his face. I could totally see like a world where Joe Mauer emerges. Oh, he's interested in the job, and he gets the job, a la Jason Kidd when he first got the Brooklyn Nets job back in 2013. The Mets, Terry Francona. I don't think that Luis Rojas is going to last. He might be fired at the end of the season if they don't make the NLCS. I think the National League East is very weak, and I think that they might win it by default because of the Acuna injury and some other factors. And I think that the Mets and Steve Cohen are aiming for big things, and if they fall short of the LCS, I could see where Rojas is fired, and if not this year, then it could be next year, and I could see Steve Cohen thinking big names. We want to be the Yankees, so why not go with Terry Francona? Yankees, Bob Melvin. I think that Oakland and Oakland and Bob Melvin, I think, could be like a potential time it's run its course situation. And Melvin's available. Say the Yankees fire Aaron Boone after potentially this season, if not next season. That I think it's going to be this season. I think it could be before the season, depending on how how these last couple of months go. And let's say Oakland loses in the wild card game again, and Bob Melvin might want to be like, hey, I want to explore opportunities. So, and Bob Melvin's an analytics guy, and he's a very good manager. He is an excellent manager, and I think that the fact that he was managing the Athletics in the small market kind of has hurt him. They've had great teams. They just never broke through. So I could see Bob Melvin being the Yankees manager. I would be satisfied if that was the case. Oakland Athletics, Ryan Christensen, bench coach, Oakland Athletics. So Christensen takes over for Bob Melvin in this scenario here, as I think that Melvin and the Athletics, I think, could be the parting of the ways. Phillies, Ron Washington, Braves third base coach. I could see a world where it doesn't work out with Girardi. Maybe he's gone this year, next year, probably more likely next year. And I could see a world where Ron Washington, with his experience, he's made a World Series with the Rangers, and he's bounced around a little bit as a bench coach and a third base coach. So I could see Ron Washington getting another shot. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Josh Miller, Houston Astros pitching coach. So he's the pitching coach for Dusty Baker. The Pirates are obviously a rebuilding team. That's going to sustain a lot of losses over the next couple of seasons. And their current manager, Derek Shelton, I don't know if he'll last. Cardinals, Eduardo Perez, ESPN analyst. Perez, a former Cardinals player. I could see the Cardinals just going for the big name here. He played with the Cardinals from 02 to 03. He was in the running for the Mets job, and I could see him getting an opportunity. San Diego Padres, Jace Tingler, I think he sticks around because of the successful couple years they've had. San Francisco Giants, Gabe Kapler, I think he sticks around. I wasn't a huge Gabe Kapler fan, especially when he was in Philadelphia, but he really has grown on me this year at the Giants. I think he's done a marvelous job. He has to be the manager of the year this year, so I think he's bought himself some time with the Giants. Seattle Mariners, Aaron Boone. I'm going to say he gets fired from the Yankees probably after this season. And Seattle's thinking, oh, Aaron Boone's available. He's won 300-something games as a manager. And I could see a world where he's available. And he was a Mariner. Or, I'm sorry, he wasn't a Mariner. His brother was a Mariner. And that's where the tie comes in with Aaron Boone. His brother, Bob Boone, I believe, was a Seattle Mariner. So that's where the tie comes in. And that ownership I guess it wasn't Bob Boone. Brett Boone was the Mariner. So that's where the Mariners tie comes in. Bob's the dad, Brett's the son. And that's where I could see the Aaron Boone connection coming in. Tampa Bay, Matt Quatraro. He's the bench coach for Kevin Cash. I'm going to say that Kevin Cash moves on. I don't think it's going to be after this year, maybe next year. And I could see a Quatraro stepping in here. Texas, Bobby Dickerson. He's the bench coach and third base coach of the San Diego Padres. Texas, to me, is a team that might prematurely think that it's ready to compete. And that's where Chris Woodward might get axed. And this is his third year there, which is amazing. Toronto, Kyle Snyder. He's the pitching coach of the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't think Charlie Montoyo is going to last in Toronto because of the expectations factor and them falling short. So I could see them looking around and noticing some AL East talent in terms of coaches. And I think Snyder's done a great job with the Rays pitching, and maybe he gets a managerial shot. And last but not least, here's a fun one. The Washington Nationals. Ryan Zimmerman. Just throwing it out there. It's similar to the Joe Mauer one. The case is that longtime player retires, and then, let's say the Nats fire Dave Martinez because they underachieve, and I could see Ryan Zimmerman being their manager within the next couple of years. Similar to what the Cubs have with David Ross right now. So there you have it. MLB managers in 2024. We'll see how I do with this. All right, now I'm going to do the latest news and notes. The big one coming down right before I started recording. Pekka Rinne retires. As he says, all I can say is thank you, and I'll see you again. So, congratulations to Pekka Rinne. Great career in Nashville. Now, Juicy Saros will step in and be their goaltender for the foreseeable future. So, it's not like they have to go search for his replacement. We talked about the starters in the All-Star game, and Major League Baseball changed the rules for Ohtani, as Ohtani begged the league to allow him to remain in the All-Star game to bat after he's done pitching. Pete Alonso says, I'm the best power hitter on the planet after winning the home run derby. He really did put on a show. So Australia upset Team USA. So Team USA is 0-2 in exhibition play, which is really, really stunning. 91-83. Dame dropped 22. Patty Mills is a part of the Australia team. He led the way. So that's not good for Popovich, as he got chippy with the reporter. "You'll be quiet now while I talk," he says. Yikes. Nigeria salutes Australia, as Nigeria basketball tweets hilarious meme to welcome Australia to the club after upsetting Team USA. So Team USA is very hated among the players and PRs of other international teams. So you got to keep an eye on that for sure. Nikita Kucherov channels his inner McMahon as he did a billionaire strut on his way out of the celebration rally, and the Lightning dented the cup, as it looks like that the Lightning may have partied a little too much. And Kucherov found another mic, and he went shirtless again, then gave the reporter a beer shower. Mike Trout calls Ohtani in the middle of the Derby as he gave his teammate a pep talk over the phone after a slow start in the first round. Here's a fun one, guys. Mario 64 sold for $1.56 million. On Sunday, an unopened copy of Super Mario 64 from 1996 became the most expensive video game ever sold. That is some stuff there. I know it's not sports related. This is obviously a podcast that I branded Beyond Sports, but this is something I wanted to talk about on News and Notes today because I found that very interesting. I'm a big fan of the Mario game, and I think that is a really interesting story that came out. LeBron James posts a Toon Squad picture from Space Jam along with Bugs Bunny, Lola, and Daffy Duck as he shows off the squad pic on Twitter. The new frontrunner for the Pelicans head coaching job is Willie Green, who's an assistant with the Phoenix Suns, who's really been a good assistant for Monty Williams this season. The Golden State Warriors discussed the Damian Lillard trade internally, so that is really interesting. Dame and Curry together, and Clay. Wild. And N'Keal Harry will attend camp despite the trade request. The New York Knicks are eyeing Duncan Robinson, as the Heat forward has fans within the Knicks organization and could be targeted in free agency. So that would be a good addition for the Knicks. He's a shooter and can really hit it from three. He has, to me, J.J. Redick vibes. The Warriors are split on Davion Mitchell, as somebody came on the Light Years podcast that not everybody in the Warriors organization thinks Davion Mitchell is a good pick at number 7. And that is crazy to me. To me, Davion Mitchell is one of the best players in this draft. On that piece of tidbits comes from that's interesting because it says John Wass. But this isn't linking to somebody from the Warriors, so maybe that's a autocorrect on Bleacher Report's part. The Michigan police turned over their investigation into the death of the Blue Jackets goalie Matisse Kivlinkis to a prosecutor for review. So that is very interesting, obviously, as they are looking for answers in terms of his passing. So we'll see what happens here. Patrick Mahomes took a shot at Justin Herbert, as a fan told Patrick Mahomes to watch out for Justin Herbert, as Mahomes says, "I'll see it when I believe it." Oof. I think that Mahomes is just sick of the Justin Herbert hype and how people are going to think that the Chargers are going to win the division and they have a better roster than the Chiefs. Like, you're going to be hearing that sort of talk going into the season. And to me, that's sort of reminiscent of San Francisco versus Seattle before the 2013-14 season. I wasn't a believer in the Seahawks, but I was a believer in Pete Carroll. I just didn't think that Russell Wilson was going to be as good as he became. I knew he was good as a rookie, but they were just overhyping him going into his second season, and then they won the Super Bowl, and Russell Wilson shut my mouth, as we all know. So this is what it's reminiscent of, and obviously that 49ers team in 13 was coming off a Super Bowl appearance and came darn close to winning that Super Bowl too. So this is what this kind of reminds me of in a way. So Chargers-Chiefs is going to be a fantastic rivalry this season to look out for. Jalen Ramsey lists his toughest covers. DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr., and Julio Jones. That's the three hardest wide receivers to cover in the league. Those are all hard ones to cover, for sure. Devontae Adams is another one. And that could make a list of some others as well. But those are obviously three really, really tough covers. And the last bit of news is an NHL trade. Duncan Keith traded to the Edmonton Oilers for defenseman Caleb Jones and a 2022 conditional third-round pick. I think both teams did fair in this deal. I think that Edmonton did a little bit better because they didn't have to give up more than a third-rounder in terms of pick value. So Duncan Keith obviously requested a trade, and he wanted to go to Western Canada, so it was either going to be the Flames or the Oilers or the Canucks. So they sent Caleb Jones and the pick to the Hawks, and obviously Jones has played some NHL before. 33 games last year. COVID season, he played 43 games, including 14 with AHL Bakersfield. And he was with Bakersfield for a while in 17-18 and in 18-19, and he made his NHL debut in 18-19 as well. So, and here's the fun fact, older brother of Seth Jones. But obviously, he's not Seth Jones. Good. But it's good for the Edmonton Oilers. They get a veteran presence in Keith. Keith is still a good player, but he's not what he was in the middle of the 2010s when the Blackhawks were winning Stanley Cups. So, good veteran pickup for the Edmonton Oilers. For sure. Alrighty. Last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going to go to the All-Star game. Sometimes it's high scoring, sometimes it's low scoring. I think 11's a high total. So I'm going to lay a half unit on under 11 in the All-Star game tonight is my best bet of the day. All right, so tomorrow will be NBA Finals Game 4, so we'll preview and pick that. I'm also going to predict who will be every team's NBA head coach 3 years from now. I'll have an NHL mock draft for you as well. And maybe one more activity as well as news and notes and best bet of the day. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.